Welcome. We would be starting with a summary for Kurukshetra June 2017. The title for this issue was Boosting Farmers' Income. Now before we start on to the main topic on farmers and the farmer income, we'll look around few of the commonly used terms during this time. First is GDP, the next is GVA. So GDP is the gross domestic product, and when we talk about GDP, it's the nation's total economic activity. When I say GAV or the gross value added, it's GDP minus the taxes plus the subsidy. So whenever we talk about the agricultural area, we mainly focus on GAV. So GAV for agriculture is nearly 15.3% as per 2015 and 16. So that's GAV. Then another commonly used terms are nominal income and real income. So nominal income is the income that is measured based on the current currency valuation, and the real income is the income that is based after inflation adjustment. Now we will talk about the boosting of farmers' income. For doubling the farmers' income, there were few things that have been focused on. First is the growth in the agriculture itself, the real transformation in the agriculture, providing credit to the farmers. So you had the crop insurance, then you have providing quality and certified seeds, the recent national agricultural market. The question on NAM was asked for this prelim, so again it's important for your mains. Again you have the Prime Minister's 7-point action plan, the Fasal Bima Yojana, the cold chain, that is a very integral part of the rural economy, the Krishi Sinchai Yojana meant for irrigation facilities, and the role of women. So these will be the topics that we would be discussing in our lecture. Now first talking about the agricultural growth. As we talk about the agricultural growth, the sole idea is to increase the income of the farmer. So when we say increasing the income of the farmer, we must be aware that nearly 22.5% of the total farmers live below poverty line. So if we talk about, let's say, Punjab, it's 0.5% farmers living below poverty line. However, if we move on to Jharkhand, it's nearly 45% farmers which live below the poverty line. That means there are extensive regional disparities that occur, and the need is to focus on these regional disparities in India. So if we are assessing the situation of 2003 versus 2013, we can see there is changes in the average monthly income, and Odisha is one of the states that has been able to double the real income of the farmers during this time. The monthly income changes are there for the cultivators and the farmers. Now again, if you look back onto the scenario, nearly 86% of the total farmers are the marginal farmers or the small farmers. That's one of the facts that we must not ignore when we talk about the real doubling of the income. So how this can be done, we need to have a kind of background of the society. 52% of the total farmers are indebted or under loan, and this loan accounts for around 47,000 per farmer. So that's a kind of substantial amount of loan which a farmer has to repay. So these are some of the basic statistics based on which we would understand why there is a need for the real income to be increased. Again, if we talk about the 2011 agricultural census, as per that census there were 26.3 crore farmers. Of this 26 crore farmers, you had nearly 11 crores who were cultivators and remaining 14.8 crores who were agricultural laborers. So these agricultural laborers are a lot, and we need to do something really to improve this ratio, where you have the cultivators which are really higher than the agricultural laborers. Now this is the survey which shows the average monthly income. So the sources of average monthly income, if quoted, so agricultural household income is around 6,426. However, they have an expense of 6,223. So you can see what's the real meager income that is present in the farm areas. Now again, you have the various sources of agricultural income that is given. However, there has been significant growth in the agricultural sector. During the 11th plan period, it was around 3.3%. However, During 2016-17, it is estimated at around 4.3% growth in the agricultural sector. That's really good. Now when we talk about the gross value added, the growth rates for those, we can see in terms of total economy we are performing good. However, there are certain sectors which have done exceptionally good. For example, livestock and fishing and aquaculture. So blue revolution has indeed paid a lot, and you have substantial increase in the livestock that has seen. So it's not only the real agricultural income from the agricultural sources, but the allied fields are also very important. So doubling the farmers' income was by 2022 is one of the main motives. Now if you look on to the crop wise statistics, we have a comparison table which shows the yield of India and the worldwide yield, and we can see definitely we lag behind the worldwide yield in all these crops. So there is a scope to improve all these crops, specifically maize and pulses, where we are lagging far behind the world averages. Again, you have some of the top nations here. The idea is to get the points and kind of incentives or ideas from these top performing nations so as to improve the efficiency of agriculture in these regions. Again, investment in public sector is very essential. So Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana, developing the rural infrastructure, and programs like Mahatma Gandhi Rural Employment Guarantee schemes, all this have helped by raising the infrastructural facilities in the rural areas. Then you have the various social, the welfare schemes for the farmers. These include the soil health card, as we have already discussed in the class on prelims. This was one of the questions from the prelims. Both the soil health card and the national agricultural market. So rural economies are definitely a focus, and this forms an important section for your mains as well. Now soil health card are those cards which are issued assessing the quality of the soil. Once you have the quality of the soil that is assessed, based on that you can provide loans to the farmers, based on which you can expand the irrigable area and so on, the cultivable area. Finally, you have the crop insurance scheme or the Fasal Bima Yojana. Now this crop scheme has 2% for Kharif and you have 1.5% for Rabi and so on. Now the next is the Agricultural Produce and Livestock Marketing Act 2017, which was released in April, talks about Model Marketing Act, and that's again very important. So agriculture output is a major input for the food processing industry, and therefore from pre-processing to post-production, post-harvest, all of these should be included under the Fasal Bima Yojana, which is now under the PM Fasal Bima Yojana, in contrast to the previous crop insurance schemes which did not include this. There is a work on the Model Contract of the Farming Act that is being proposed, that talks about strengthening the storage infrastructure and the warehouse quality, and all the states and union territories have been advised to set up 2-level review committees. The first is at the district level, the next is at the state level. Now next is the transforming agriculture. When we talk about transforming agriculture, there are few things that are essential. First is certified and quality seeds, providing high yielding variety of crops, improving the technology, providing high value crops, missing the art technology, and providing modern methods for farming, ensuring minimum support price to the farmers, and this support price is announced by the government. We have already covered on a lecture on understanding the support price in the NCERT Economics class 9-10, so please go back and refer that. Then you have the AMPC Act 2003, which has been adopted and implemented, which is the Agriculture Product Marketing Committees, and these have been renewed with the help of Niti Aayog. Now under the National Agricultural Market, the idea is to unify all the mandis so that the farmer has choices for the best price for his produce. Again, there are, as we said, ENAM is one of the initiative, and central government has nearly rupees 75 lakh under ENAM scheme. Then you have better management of herds and livestock. Livestock has increased the farmer income by 25 to 30%. There is a scope to increase the farmers' income by 52% if we move on to the same traditional ways as we have been doing. However, in case we want to accelerate this to 100%, we need to accelerate our efforts by at least 33%. There are various producer institutions like FPOs, the Farmer Producer Organization, which is important for small holding agricultures and the food processing in rural areas, whereas kind of agro-based industry should be started. Coming on to the next topic is the credit. Now credit is a major issue in rural India. Now Prime Minister has created a strategy. The idea is to lead a kind of perfect ecosystem with per drop more crop. That means with minimum irrigation getting the maximum output. This could be possible by means of drip irrigation, sprinkler irrigation. Then you have to increase the resource flow into the rural areas, provide quality seeds, reduce any kind of post harvest losses, promote the processing of foods into the rural area itself, creating a kind of national market under the NAM strategy that has been done, and reducing the risk. So this is a kind of holistic approach which aims at expanding the market and increasing the productivity. The next is the credit to agricultural sector by formal banking has been increased to 10 lakh crores. The idea is to increase the rural credit, and you have 69% of rural households which are landless and have less than 1 hectare. 17% have land between 1 to 2 hectares, and 36% are tenant farmers which are landless, and 56% are marginal landowners. So what is important is, rather than the local people who can act as mediators, it would be best if small bank could come into villages and provide credit facilities to the farmers. Now when you are providing quality seeds to the farmers, what are the benefits? With the quality seeds, first of all, the rate of the seed will reduce, production will improve and the quality will improve. So you can even think of export based economy. The other dimensions to increase the productivity would be judicious use of inputs, safe exploitation of modern technology, and shifting the economy or farming practices to organic farming. Now how you can ensure the availability of quality seeds? By increasing the varietal replacement. So you have nearly 1500 high yielding variety seeds that are present. Enhancing the seed replacement rate. This shows that how much cropped area is sown with the certified seeds. Maintaining the quality of seeds. There are nearly 124 seed testing laboratories that are there. Using tissue culture production for planting trees and all the plantation. These tissue culture crops would be free from any kind of fungal infection or bacterial pathogens. Then using genetically modified seeds or hybrid seeds, and creating a kind of sustainable seed production. This table shows how there has been a kind of drastic improvement in the quality of seeds from 2008 to 2015, and then you have the various crops and the quality of seeds requirement and availability which can be seen for 2015. So some of these statistics are really important if you want to substantiate your answer in mains examination. Now coming on to the important topic, that's the National Agricultural Market. As we said, the eNAM portal was launched in 2016. It's an online portal to connect all the mandis across the various states, and it provides a single window service for all AMPCs. Again, it would help, the lead here is the SAF, the Small Farmers Agribusiness Consortium. So this is a kind of lead promoter of NAM, and this will remove any kind of interstate barriers. So the idea or the benefit of NAM is it would provide a kind of platform for transparent transactions. So no more corruptions, no more intermediaries that are between. Providing quality standards, the farmer would get the best price for his produce. A kind of single point of levy of any kind of market fees. All the schemes here would be applicable on an all India basis. So no regional or state interference would be there, and with certain selected mandis would have the soil testing facility labs where the farmer can go and take the sample of his soil and test the quality of the soil. Now the current status of NAM aims at integrating 21 mandis in 8 states. The budget allocation has been 200 crores with 25 key commodities, and 417 markets from 13 states have already been integrated under NAM. Now talking about the benefits, these were the objectives that we discussed. The benefit would be the farmer would have more option for sale, there would be better opportunities, there would be no intermediary cost, no extra market fees that would be levied, a common procedure would be there for everyone, and there would be a kind of value chain that would emerge in agricultural commodities. Also they would help to promote kind of storage facilities. At present there are nearly 50% of the losses that are incurred due to improper or inefficient cold storage chain. Then what are the challenges? This system looks simple for the farmers, but it is not as simple as it should be. There are possibilities for better price to be discovered, but that becomes limited. So if the farmer has an option of locally getting a better price, that option becomes limited here. Then the quality variations can have both benefits and challenges, because in short run these quality seeds can definitely possess benefits, but there could be long term harms with some HIV seeds, as have been seen as a result of Green Revolution, the first phase. Then you have the electronic option provisions that are seen. So the single license need to be valid across all states. So till now it's 8 states and it has to be expanded further. Now a recent center scheme has been introduced, which is Sampada. Sampada is an umbrella scheme and it includes all the food parks, the cold storage chain, and so on and so forth. Now Prime Minister's 7 point of action, these are the 7 key point of action plan. It talks about focus on irrigation, seeds, investment, storage, food processing, risk assessment, creating a national farm market, and finally promoting the ancillary activities like fishing, as we said. So here are some of the initiatives that have been taken for the farmers. As we can see, there has been a substantial agricultural growth, and the production in the case of fishes and milk production has also increased significantly as compared to last year, and 2016-17 was the kind of record production for many of the crops. Some of the important schemes, as we said, was Fasal Bima Yojana, providing relief to farmers in distress, the Krishi Sinchai or Irrigation Yojana, Soil Health Card, the credit facilities, and the ENAM. Now some of the other important things that were covered under the Prime Minister's action plan was providing neem coated urea. Now neem coated urea has become mandatory. Neem coated urea was also a question in 2016 examination. Again important, a very important topic and a burning topic this time. Abolition of any kind of levy systems, payment of the sugarcane arrears, direct subsidy to sugarcane farmers, stabilizing the price of pulses, then providing the agrometeorological services to the farmers by means of SMS. So farmer would be informed about any upcoming cyclone or any meteorological change that could be witnessed. Then Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, this talks about organic farming, so boosting more of organic farming and biofertilizers. Concept of blue revolution in the fisheries, which we already talked about. National Gokul mission that talks about breeding the indigenous cattle, and that is one of the major reforms in the livestock sector. So we said 2 sectors have performed far better, and the growth rates in terms of GAV, the gross value added, has been record for fisheries and livestock. So you have the National Gokul mission. Then dairy sector has been performing good. You have Kisan channel through which you have information that is being given to the farmers, and the development of new technologies. Now crop insurance, as we talk about, targets to cover 50% farmers by 2019. It includes the 2 discontinued schemes which were there, that's the National Agricultural Insurance Scheme and the Modified National Agricultural Insurance Scheme. However, weather based crop insurance scheme and coconut palm insurance scheme are still operating. There is no upper limit for the subsidy provided by the center and the state. This would cover 50% of the crops by 2018-19, and it would also, as we said, cover the losses from the pre-harvest to the post-harvest phase, and in contrast to the previous schemes. Now nearly 3.66 crore farmers have already been enrolled in this Fasal Bima Yojana as of 2016. There has been a budgetary allocation of nearly 5,500 crores, and the expansion has certain challenges. The challenges include the uneven progress to adopt the new technology, and for the target year 2017-18, the insurance area under the Fasal Bima Yojana has been set up to 40% of the gross cropped area, and this is a huge jump of nearly 51.5 million hectare, and we do not know whether it would be achieved or not. Then you have the Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin. This was mainly focused for improving the rural scenario. Also, there were two phases, the iconic phase 1 and iconic phase 2. Under the iconic phase 1, you had some of the major pilgrimage places and the major places of tourism which were included. 2 water ATMs have been established in Katra in Jammu Kashmir, and Jammu Kashmir also declared the Rezi block as open defecation free. These are the 10 new Swachh iconic places that have been included in phase 2. So you must be familiar with the names and the locations. Now coming on to the cold chain. As we said, 50% of the losses are incurred due to the inefficient cold chain system. So there is a need to improve the cold chain. First of all. Secondly, India is one of the largest producer and consumer of food and food processed industries. You have nearly 21% of the GDP that comes from food and allied industry, and 31% of the total spending from the consumer point of view goes to the food and the allied industries. However, there is a problem of inefficient supply chain. So this problem is very crucial and needs to be solved. Government is providing various incentives and tax and duties. So cold chain, as we said, it aims to reduce the food losses. 100% FDI has now been allowed in cold chain, and it has technological limitations. Now, what are the major sectors under which you can integrate cold chain? It includes packing and of fresh products, food processing, cold storage, distribution and marketing. So these are the heads under which you need to have a kind of efficient supply chain system. However, there are international organizations like International Institute of Refrigeration, World Food Logistics Organization and Global Cold Chain Alliance who have been partnering with India in this aspect. So cold chain becomes a very important section, and Center has approved for construction of nearly 10 million metric tons capacity of silos by 2019 and 20. Now next is, what are the benefits of cold chain? The cold chain would reduce transportation problems, would reduce the transpiration, would reduce ethylene production, and ethylene helps in food ripening. So the ripening of the foods would become slow. It would have increased resistance to ethylene action, decreased activity of microbial activity at low temperature. So the kind of damages of the fresh food products would be decreased, and there would be delay in the ripening. Now, what does a well-developed food chain provide? It reduces post-harvest losses, it reduces the supply chain cost, it creates additional income for the farmers and improves the quality and the hygiene of the food product. The next is Krishi Sinchai Yojana. It aims at providing Har Khet Ko Pani, water for every field, and efficient use with more crop per drop. So you had the drip irrigation and the sprinkler irrigation. Now this also adopts a kind of decentralized state level planning, and the extension. 5,000 crores have been approved for the implementation in India for 5 years, and you have micro irrigation projects that have come into play. Then you have the watershed development, which is known as the Neeranchal National Watershed Project, launched in collaboration with World Bank. All the states would get benefit from the Neeranchal project, and this would be for a period of 6 years, where the target would be to bring the 12% wasteland into agricultural land. Then micro irrigation we already talked about. This is a kind of centrally sponsored scheme launched in 2006. In 2010 it was upscaled to national mission on micro irrigation, and 2015 it was subsumed under the Krishi Sinchai Yojana for drip and sprinkler irrigation. Now role of women, this is again very important. If we talk about role of women, you have nearly 47% of the women who are involved in cotton and tea cultivation, 45% in oilseed cultivation, 39% in vegetable production and 22% in fisheries. The total women participation rate in agricultural sector is 44% as per 2011 census, with nearly 98 million Indian women, and of which you have 63% who are agricultural laborers. So you have definitely a huge women workforce in agriculture that is involved. However, there are challenges for women in agriculture sector. The first is the diversification from agricultural to non-agricultural activity requires skill development, then higher input cost, inadequate rainfall, the critical natural resources are not equally distributed, and there are issues with ownership rights. So these are some of the things. What has been done? So you have the horticulture mission, the rural go down scheme which talks about subsidy to women farmers, the national mission on agricultural extension and technology, agribusiness sectors. Then you have food security mission, mission on sustainable agriculture, Central Institute of Women in Agriculture. So these are some of the schemes that have come up which would help women participate more in the agricultural activities. Now 30% of the allocated fund would be invested on women farmers. 15th October is observed as Female Farmer Day. New female cooperatives have come up. Females are being trained to be a part of those cooperatives to manage the fund. Then you have Krishi Vigyan Kendra, where you have at least one female scientist that would be deployed. So government is providing various ways to bring in women into farming. Then you have Swachhata Abhiyan, again under the Rashtriya Swachhata Kendra has been established at Rajghat. And you have the Swachh Bharat Mission, who was the pioneer to establish this Kendra. There would be nearly 275 effort hours for cleanliness under Swachhata Pakhwada. Then development of e-guide, which is a kind of audiovisual app, training the young professionals for the same, sponsoring them, and a kind of collaboration with the Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation. Then there are other initiatives like Nukkad Natak, Atithi Devo Bhava, Incredible India. So these are collaborations with the Ministry of Tourism and the PSUs for Swachhata. Now yoga. Yoga is one of the essential elements. It was Patanjali who, the Sikh who initiated the concept of yoga, and he gave 8 components: the ethical behavior, self-discipline, body postures, breathing regulations, 3 progressive deep meditating practices, and sensory withdrawals. So these were the 8 key elements that were given by Patanjali under the concept of yoga. Yoga not only talks about the union of individual with the whole of existence, but also yug means to unite. Now why yoga is important in rural India? Since we are talking about rural India here, in rural area you have nearly 7% males and 5% females who suffer from diabetes or blood sugar. You have nearly 9% males and 6% females who suffer from high blood pressure and 15% suffering from problems of obesity. So these are a kind of huge figure, and definitely yoga could be a way forward. So yoga would help enhance the rural health. Then it would be good for various patients. It would help bring in good mental health, reduce the possibilities of epidemics. It's good for senior citizens. It would be helpful for children as well. So these are some of the benefits of yoga. Then the next is Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Antodaya Yojana. It is a scheme to uplift the urban poor folks, and this was launched by Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation with a provision of 500 crores. The idea was providing them employment, a kind of social mobilization, and subsidy to the urban poor, not the rural poor. So Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Antodaya scheme is for the urban poor and providing the shelter to homeless people. So these are some of the remarkable achievements that government has done for this year. So you had the record food grain production, record production and pulses. Then nearly 725 lakh soil health cards have been distributed. Many of the farmers have come under a registered portal till 2017. There are various food producer organizations that have been formed. Milk, egg and fish 3 years growth rate have been highest. And then you have the Krishi Sinchai Yojana, under which 8,40,000 hectare of micro irrigated irrigation have been started. So these were some of the highlights from the Kurukshetra June 2017. We will be covering Kurukshetra and Yojana every month. We will be covering Yojana in the next few lectures. Have a good day ahead.